Welcome, everyone, to episode 39 of The Bunker Talk. Super excited to have Maria Maldonado Smith from MMS Consulting Firm, right?
Yes.
Firm, yes. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing so good. So excited to sit down and have this conversation with you. I think that you have so much to teach us, and it's time
Yes.
that we learn, especially
Thanks.
me. I'm telling you, I think that I'm going to start right off the bat. I think that tell everybody what you do, who you are, all that, and then I'll get started. I have so many questions, so I'm super excited.
I'm so glad. Well, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. So, I'm Maria Maldonado Smith. I have my own company, MMS Consulting Firm, and it's a people and leadership development firm. It was really rooted out of my corporate background and experience, but it's become more about helping women and men and college students and just individuals, anyone who wants to set a goal for themselves in their life to see it through to fruition. I think so often we have this idea of setting goals, or we think we do, but in fact, less than 3% of Americans actually sit down and write goals. So my family sits down at the beginning of every year and we work with our kids. And my husband and I write down goals. We write down goals as a couple, as a family. And it's just a great way for us to set the tone for our new year. But then as we move through the year, and get into March, April, May, into September, et cetera, it's a way for us to continue to engage on how are we doing on those goals. And I think in theory, we love the idea of setting a goal and achieving it and creating this vision for our life, but how active and how actively present are we in doing that? So that's really what my company seeks to do. And I like doing it in corporations, nonprofits, government. Like I will work with anyone, because I say my program fits an 8-year-old to, 108-year-old. We're never too young to stop dreaming. And, we're never too old to stop and never too young to start.
I think that, first of all, how did you get into this? Because I know you worked corporate, but tell us that transition. Because I guess the question that I have is how do you make something like this your entire business, helping people see through their goals? Like it's so powerful what you do, right? Like it's almost like you give people permission to dream, which it's hard to also just put your arms around that, right? So how do you do that? What led you to it? And then tell us about the business of it.
Yeah. I would say that this is something that has probably been building since I was younger, but I just didn't realize it. And it's funny you say that about how do you make a business out of this? Because I think I'm just as baffled at times, yet here I am. And I think it's because I don't know if I'm just stupidly optimistic that people want what I have to sell them or help them with, because I do believe that. I do believe we crave accountability and we crave community. We crave friendship through goal setting, through achieving things, because it gives us purpose and meaning, which our lives should have. And we all want that. But taking it back to how I got started, I was in 3rd grade when I really started thinking about my goals. I've been a dreamer my entire life. I was born. I'm an Enneagram 7. I'm an enthusiast. I also have a strong Enneagram 3 tendencies as well, which I think is where the high achieving and wanting to be constantly working towards something comes in play. But I'm also your biggest cheerleader. I'm the hype woman. And I think as a child, I loved cheering my friends on. I loved organizing things. I loved seeing other people succeed, but I was also very individually driven as well. And so I set 3 goals that a teacher had walked us through an exercise when we were in the 3rd grade.
Wow.
And it stuck with me because it was one of those things that for me was like a turning point almost in life at that time. And I think, and she wasn't a nice teacher. It's so funny because everyone always comments like, this must be, wow, she just must have been like a gem, right? I'm like, no, actually she wasn't. She was pretty atrocious, but this was like the
atrocious.
She was, yeah. but yeah,
that's so funny.
It was a Catholic school, and not that it was like that's like the setting, but I feel like sometimes it's like it always starts like, well, it was when I was in Catholic school,
right? Well, I think it's preconceived that they're stricter or they're mean teachers. Right. Yes.
And I think that I don't know that she really enjoyed what she did, but she did enjoy that one assignment. It was like her favorite. So we get out a piece of paper, and she doesn't really give us any parameters. She just has to write down 3 goals. So I actually liked that. Looking back on it, when I reflect on it, I think, gosh, I think maybe she was trying to figure out who we were as students. Maybe it was an exercise that she did to see, do kids plan short-term, long-term? Like, what are they thinking? Are they big life goals, or are they very detailed? Like, I just, want to finish this paper by the end of the week, or, I want to score a goal in the soccer game on Saturday. But for whatever reason, this assignment really resonated with me. And I thought big, because I'm a big-time dreamer. And so I wrote down 3 goals, and I took it to my mom's office after work, and we transferred it onto a Post-it note, and it stuck on my...
That's where it came from.
Yeah.
The power of the Post-it note.
That's where it comes from. Yep.
Wow.
And I rewrote it multiple times over the course of my life, but until I was 18 and left for college, it stayed up there.
Do you remember what they were?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first one was to graduate college.
Okay.
Because my father is an immigrant from Argentina. Mm-hmm. He had the equivalent of an 8th grade education. Mm-hmm. He learned English at 26 on his own, with the help of some friends, but came to this country knowing like coffee, toast, and water. That's about it. So he ate a lot and drank a lot of those things. And then, met my mother, and my mom graduated high school, but then went to like a 2-year business, like a school for accounting and for like finance and office management. And so education was a big piece of our upbringing when we were growing up, because my parents knew that maybe had they been able to advance their education, they could have had a different life for themselves. And so they wanted that for us. So that was a big piece of that. So probably a lot of that was driven by them. And then the second was I wanted to be Miss Kentucky, because I had been watching that pageant since I was, as my grandma used to say, knee high to a grasshopper. She was from like that,
I love that.
She was Kentucky.
That's so good.
So I'd been watching it for as long as I could remember at that time, and I wanted to be Miss Kentucky. It used to be televised on TV. Miss America, was on TV, and still is for the most part. Kind of have to look for it. And so I wrote that down. I was like, that's what I want to do. And the third is, I think I was just I was wanting to impress my teacher. Like I said, she was one of those that like, it's almost like you want the abuser to like you. So it's like you to continue to try to please. Was kind of that like twisted relationship, I think, that a lot of us had with her. And so I wrote I wanted to be a U.S. Senator, because I thought she's really going to love this. And like, she's going to think I'm like the best student ever. Like, I'm going to get the gold star. Yeah. I'm going to be like Ralphie, in A Christmas Story. Like, this is going to be amazing. So I wrote those 3 goals down, and like I said, they hung on my mirror. Coincidentally, I double majored in political science and vocal performance. I interned in DC. I worked on political campaigns. I, did all of the things. Enjoyed politics, but working on a campaign kind of turned me and made me realize it's not the direction I wanted to go in. And then politics in general, I just kind of over time got completely turned off from. But that's okay. And when I talk with school children, and when I talk to people, when I give that talk, and I share that from a motivational standpoint, which I got to do as Miss Kentucky because I accomplished that goal. And right before I won Miss Kentucky, I graduated from the University of Kentucky. So I got to do at least 2 of those 3 things, but I would always share with the kids.
And the third was kind of involved in the first.
Right, kind of involved in the first, exactly. And at that time, I had ideas that I probably didn't want to be involved in political campaigns or didn't want to run for office myself. But now that I speak about it, I use it as an opportunity to encourage people that we can change our minds.
Right.
And we evolve as people and as humans, and we should be.
And the goal was there, and it might have guided what you studied, right? And maybe you ended up liking for whatever reason, but it's also okay to pivot.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
I love that. First of all, that's a fascinating story. First of all. Second of all, I'm very glad you didn't become a politician.
Thank you.
You were just too too good of a human being to be a politician. So I'm very glad that didn't happen. And third, I just want to clarify with you that my question is not like in any way like being like, I can't believe that you have a business out of this. I just want to clarify.
Oh no.
I like, it's not that at all. And I don't think that it's just that you're like extremely optimistic and people want, no, I think you have an incredible talent in helping people see their potential. Mm-hmm. And I think that in my time of being around you, it is something that is, first of all, contagious, because you're contagious for sure in a good way. Thanks. But I think that so many people don't have this. So many people don't know how to do it, right? That's why people don't accomplish their goals, right? The majority of people, because they wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah,
it's so
huge.
I think that the business of you is the tactical part, right? Of writing down accountability, strategy to achieve those things. That's what the business of you is, right? Like it's more than just a goal achieving thing.
Right.
So I just wanted to clarify that, because I don't and know me, and I don't know that my question came off that way. I just wanted to clarify it, because I don't,
not at all.
I think that what you do is so important. And I think that it's a shame that I regret finding you at 40. Where would I have been had I had that experience? Right?
Yeah.
Like, why don't they talk about this? Why don't they teach this to children?
That's like the $64 million question
it really
that I
is.
ask all the time.
It's painful. It's really sad to know that, like, and I know you do some work with children, but in my experience now, I see you like in the government spaces here locally where they bring you in and you're doing these workshops, and it's like, man, if it's powerful on us at this stage in our life, imagine in third grade. Yep. Imagine if you had a little Maria that you're mm-hmm. telling her to write down the 3 goals that she wants, right? Like,
yes.
Why? It's disheartening to know that, like, stuff that could actually change people's lives is pushed to the side mm-hmm. in our education system.
Mm-hmm. For sure. There are, and I'm actually really proud of my home state, because they have a program that we are working on implementing some curriculum into, which would encompass my program, my process.
I love that.
And I'm super excited about that. And so we're hoping that by 2025, by this fall, the 2025-2026 school year, we will have it implemented as like an adjunct to a program that already exists, mm-hmm. but it just further capitalizes on the goal setting piece of it. So it helps, and it'll help kids K through 12. So it'll actually take them all the way through, and they'll end up creating a really cool project by the end of their senior year of high school.
Imagine if 10% of those kids
right
lived up to their goals, or this actually framed their decisions, because they know how to achieve them. They know that it's possible, right? I feel like it's always like the little kids get asked, like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Right.
I feel like we were raised that that's what goals are. Mm-hmm. It's it's like so far away. It's impossible.
Yes.
So don't even chase it.
Right. I have 3 questions that I always start with any group that I'm with, whether it's a 3rd grade class or a group of City of Fort Lauderdale employees. I start with the 3 questions. One is, what do you want? Like, what do you want?
I mean, who asks anybody that?
Right. What do you want?
Right.
And do we really take the time to know what we want, where we can answer that wholeheartedly and without pause? I know exactly what I want. This is what I want. This is where I'm headed. It might change over time. That's okay. But I know right now this is what I want. The second is, who do I want to become? Because I think that's a big miss. And to your point, we ask children all the time, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm less concerned about that, because if I'm not a good human, I really don't care what you do. If you can't treat people right, with kindness, with respect, with compassion, with love, with understanding, and you can't do it in a way that makes you a person of honesty, integrity, and character, then, okay, great. You're a great doctor, but, maybe you're a piece of crap human being.
Right.
You're a great lawyer, but,
you can't keep a friend.
Can't keep a friend. Exactly. Right. So I think we worry sometimes and put the emphasis on the wrong things. And the third is, what do we want to create? Because we all have an idea of something. And I get very clear with this message too, because I don't think that we're clear with it. I think oftentimes we reserve creation for people who are building big things, creating patents or new technologies or discovering things. I can create peace in my life if I want it. And I can work really hard. And that's actually something that is a monumental effort when you really peel it back and start thinking about it. I can create harmony. I can create a book. I could create, like it really depends on where you are in your life and what you want. We're not all meant to be doctors, lawyers, rock stars, whatever, and so whatever we do in our life, we just do it with meaning and purpose. And so I think that the other dynamic is a lot of times when I start a workshop, I always ask what people's idea of it is. What do you think we're going to do here today? Just to gauge what are people's thought process. And then at the end, I'm like, was this what you thought it was going to be? And it's typically, this was 100 times more. I'm a little overwhelmed, which is great because then that gives me the opportunity to do then what I love to do, which is say, okay, well then come join me in my coaching program so that we can work through this together individually. Because now that you've done this in a group and you're hooked and you want to start outlining all of your goals, now let's go do that. But I appreciate you bringing that up just because that's a big focus of, I think, even as adults. And I think that's why we have those crises in our life, right? That's why we get to 40 and we rethink everything.
100%.
Because we think, who am I?
Who am I?
What do I actually want?
Nobody ever asked us the question.
Right.
Nobody. Nobody ever asks you, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be when you grow up? It's what? Yeah. It's always if you think about it, our identity is always attached to a profession from childhood.
Yes.
What do you want to be when you grow up? That's the question that's asked. That's wildly fascinating. I mean, and it's sad too. Right. Like it's super sad. Right. But like when you think about it, it's years of work that you and other professionals are trying to undo on us, really, because it's just like we're just so conditioned to grow up, get a job, right? Maybe start a family. Usually it includes a family, and that's just like the cycle of life. Yeah, but what if that's not what it is for you? Right.
And if it is, what is it that you want out of that?
Right.
Like if that is what you want and that is your path, that's okay too.
Sure.
But then define what it is you want for your life. Who are you wanting to become? What do you want to create? Do you want to create, a family that does everything together and, your team, whatever, or what does that look like to you? And I think those are the things that in our busy, chaotic lives, we don't take the time to do, but the people that are doing that, like that are saying, I know my life's chaos, right? Or things around me are chaos, but I'm going to take the time to sit down and figure out what I want and who I want to become and what I want to create. They're the ones that are winning at life because they're figuring it all out. They're taking the time, they're doing the work. And we often look at ourselves, especially with women, work with a lot of women. It's not just mothers, it's women in general. Like I work with a lot of women who will tell their best friend how freaking amazing and awesome and wonderful that they are, but then they will look at themselves in the mirror and deem themselves completely unworthy. And that person, it's great for them because they're so special. They're so awesome. And they have this unique quality. We can identify it in other people, but we can't identify it in ourselves because we spend time with that person, analyzing them, looking at them. Sorry, I'm going wild with this mic. My animations are not made for the mic. So, no. But then we turn around to ourselves, and because we haven't done the work and identified what makes us unique, that's a big piece of my workshop is what is your unique perspective? What do you bring to the table? And when you don't know what that is,
that's a hard question.
It's
for
a hard
most
question.
To answer.
Yeah,
right.
It takes some time. We got to think about that. We got to think about how did our circumstances maybe make us feel, think, and act the way that we do? How is the way that we were raised, the trips that we took, the languages that we speak? How does all of that create this unique perspective that only we hold and possess? Because no one else had those exact same experiences that we did. There might be similarities here and there,
right?
But no one experienced it in the way that we did.
And our individual perceptions of what has happened is. Even if, two kids could have the same upbringing and their perceptions are different.
Exactly. Oh, for sure. Yeah. For sure. Yes.
I'm fascinated by all of this. And I think that I wanted to talk briefly about what you just said about the difference in women, because I was actually speaking about this recently about how that, right? Like we see it in other people, but we don't see it in ourselves. And I want to briefly touch on that, on the article. You've written really good articles, but I think it was the last one that you wrote, that you did the candid conversations on the negative thinking. Can you talk about that a little bit, about like what can we do to minimize, try to control all of those thoughts about ourselves?
Well, I think if we look at it from a health perspective too, it really is actually mentally draining and taxing. We're rewiring our brain ultimately. And so I talked a little bit about the science, and listen, I am no scientist. I'm no doctor. I'm no credentialed, but I mean, I do a lot of reading, and I read a ton of reports. I read a ton of clinical journals. Maybe that's just was embedded in me from my pharmaceutical sales days, but I enjoy reading that. And I think the most damaging of stats is that when we have these self-limiting beliefs and we allow them to be perpetuated, and we continuously tell ourselves we're not good enough, we're not worthy, we start to rewire our brain, because our brain wants to do what we want it to do. So if we tell it to do something, it's like, yeah, let's go do that. Let's go be very comfortable. And so that's why I love, when you say do it scared, it's the same concept of, it's because we're telling our body to do something that it's screaming at us to say, no, we don't want to do that. And with everything that is out there for young girls and women today in social media and all of that, it is so important that we protect what we see, because we can't unsee it. And then those start to become the negative thoughts that take up so much headspace. And we look in the mirror, and now we start thinking less of our appearance. We look in the mirror and we think, maybe if I didn't have as many wrinkles, or maybe if I weighed 10 pounds less, maybe if this, maybe if that. But that person, they're so much better because they have all of that, because I've identified that person is, maybe they're better than me. And I think it's just one of those things that, listen, human nature, we're going to judge, we're going to compare, but it becomes an illness, and it can become depression. It can become so, it can create such stagnation in our life. Like we can become stuck in that and mired in this doubt, and then we just spiral. We just continue to go down that spiral.
I have a question for you about that. And I know that you're not a doctor or a scientist or anything, but why do you think it's easier for us to hold on to the negative thoughts about ourselves over the positive ones? Why are the positive ones harder to believe about ourselves? Your perspective on that.
One, I think they're more powerful, because we've been told from the time we were younger that our weaknesses is what makes us not whole, not perfect. So we're constantly looking for the weaknesses. It's so easy to identify because our strengths come to us easily. So we've been taught from be humble, right? Be humble. You're really good. You're a really good singer, Maria. So, but don't pat yourself on the shoulder. Don't pat yourself on the back. No, work harder. Because now you can hit this note, you can sing this piece, you can do this next. And so we are always looking for the next thing to make us better, a better version of ourselves, instead of accepting that who we are right now is the best version. Now, not saying we can't improve that.
Sure.
There's always room. There's always room, absolutely. But we can't harp on the negativity of those or the weaknesses, because then it can become so damaging to our overall self-esteem, our self-doubt, and our confidence. And if we're not confident, we don't walk into anything. We don't walk into any room. We don't walk into any job. We don't walk into any relationship on even ground. We're already at a point where we are doubting, questioning, fearful, wondering. And so think about that from a goal setting standpoint. If you set a goal and then immediately you're like,
I can never do that.
I can never do this. Right. I could never do that. And honestly, that's why most people don't write down their goals.
Oh, they're afraid of it.
They're afraid of it. In studies that have been done, the reason most people shy away from even writing down their goals is because they're afraid of looking at it on a piece of paper. Because they say, but if I write it down, now I've got to look at it.
Well, it also is almost a mirror, right? Of reflection of like, if you don't hit it, then you're a failure.
Yes. 100%, 100%. And we give ourselves these crazy timelines, these timelines that don't really fit with life. And we have this high level of expectation for something that we're wanting to change. Change is extremely hard. And I don't think people, we can say it, but it's like when you really sit with change, it's like, when was the last time that you really changed something, changed your mind, changed your opinion? Did you need to be convinced multiple times? Did you need proof? Did you need to go seek that out over and over again to be validated before you thought, maybe it's time for me to change my mind about this? Of course. We're constantly doubting our own thought processes sometimes because it's hard. We want to accept that, well, if I can change, I can just change. But it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time.
This is so interesting. And sometimes when I think about it, like, I had a great childhood, so I don't really like remember like major, like bad stuff. Like it was, my parents did a phenomenal job. But when I think about it, it's like that fearlessness that kids have, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when did we lose that? Because if we were able to keep, does it go away when they realize that other people have opinions of them?
Yeah, so I have a second grader, and I'm already starting to see it now.
Okay.
And it's really sad.
So is it?
He's 8.
He's 8, and so is he realizing then that, like, people think things of him?
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
So we're generally, and there might be exceptions, and some children unfortunately might feel this stuff way earlier because of their circumstances or things that have happened to them. But generally speaking, I feel like the concept of like shame or embarrassment, I feel like children aren't really born with that. That's learned.
It's learned. Oh, of course it's learned. Mm-hmm.
And like, when does that? Because I feel like if we had a little bit of that, right, of like the lack of awareness that people have thoughts about us, we would be unstoppable.
Yeah,
as adults.
Yep. And maybe research will prove me wrong, or a psychologist or psychiatrist may say that I'm crazy, but I do not believe that you can be too positive with your children. I think you can be very real with them, but I think as far as like positivity goes, helping them understand and work their way through things is so key.
It's a life skill. It's
such a life skill, but also then telling them, well, yeah, you're just gonna have to work harder. That's okay though. You can still get there. I think also too, especially I think our generation of women, I think we're undoing a lot of the parenting that was put on us. And I don't blame, because I think that our parents did the best they could. And like you said, I had a fabulous childhood. I loved my upbringing. Like, I had everything I needed and most everything I wanted, so there wasn't anything that I can look back and say, oh my gosh. But I think as I go to parent my child, there have been instances where I think I don't want them to please me for the simple fact of pleasing me, because they're my child. I want them to make their own decisions. And I think sometimes making that separation between, you have to go live your life and you're going to have to make your own decisions, and then I have to support you in that. That's my role as a parent.
It's a lesson for both of you, almost.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Because it's real hard. Trust me. It's real hard.
Sure. I'm not a mom, but I'm sure that at the realization too, that like, you just have to trust the work you've done.
Yeah.
That they're going to be good human beings.
Yes.
You got to let them go and watch them live.
Yep. But I've worked with a lot of clients who have said, I've been told my whole life I shouldn't do this, or I shouldn't feel this way, or I shouldn't, you shouldn't cry. Don't cry. Why are you crying? Because they feel the way they feel, because that's the emotion that came out when in response to whatever happened or occurred. And I think that is something that our parents learned from their parents and beyond. So it's literally trying to break a generational
100%.
way of parenting and behaving.
And I feel like yes, the generations have gotten softer for sure.
Oh, yes. And I'm somewhere in
Waves,
the middle.
yeah.
I'm somewhere in the middle, because I feel like, we don't spank, but at the same time we discipline.
Oh, I got spanked.
You have to. Yeah. And exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, your daughter is going to be softer than you, right? Like, it's just, that's natural. And I think also just society has changed, and the problems that we have, or the problems that you have as a mom now are not the problems your mom had with you guys, right? Like
totally.
I mean,
completely.
The world of technology has changed everything about
Absolutely.
parenting and that stuff. So I'm so fascinated by everything that we're talking about, but this is a business podcast.
Yes.
So
I know. We got to talk about the business.
we totally got like off track, but this is important to know because I think that like, I feel like owning a business is kind of like raising a child. I haven't raised children, but I'm raising myself in this business together.
Yes.
And so like all of this is super important.
Yes.
And we know the power of the negative thoughts and the imposter syndrome and what that can do in your business. Sure. The hindrance it can cause you, business or career, right? I also always like to make the caveat, like, this is not a podcast where it's like you're only successful if you own a business. No, you could be very successful in corporate if that's what you wanted to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I
was very successful for a very long time until I, not that I wasn't, but until I literally had this calling to go do what I'm doing now. Which is why it's so crazy that I literally built this business.
But is it crazy or did you plan it? Did you, it was in your goals. It was in your head.
Yeah. I mean, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And I think it was, and I always say, like, if I'm being honest, well, of course I'm being honest, but if I really go back and reflect, which I've done. And when I did that, I realized, I'm actually selling myself short by telling people like, it's just this calling. It just happened. Well, I did have a moment. I totally had a moment. But that moment was the culmination of all of the moments I had ignored leading up to that said, you've got to go do this. And every time I was reminded by someone or told by someone or someone would give me a compliment, you really should be going and doing this. I think in my mind was like, well, don't tell me what to do. But at the same time, when I really reflected on it, I'm like, no, I'm very faithful. And so I pray a lot. And so for me, it was like, no, those were my signs. That was God being like, I'm putting these people in your life to tell you these things because I'm trying to give you the hint and you aren't picking up what I'm throwing down.
It's definitely, I mean, I've never met anybody that does what you do personally, like to the point where you do it, right? Like, I feel like people, I don't even know that I know someone that actually does like a vision board every year, which I know that obviously you believe in and that's big for you, but like, and that, even that environmentally, right? Like I just wasn't raised around or knew people that did it. So that's a foreign concept to me, but like you have a gift. You really do have a gift because you make this tangible for us. It's real. So I'm glad you answered the calling because we need it. We need it. And I'm thrilled that they're bringing that out to children because that's where, I mean, it matters for us as adults, but really you are shaping children's lives with this programming, just like yours, just like even from someone you didn't like. So imagine, imagine presented on good terms, right? Like in a loving fashion, it's going to be even more powerful. Right. So, let's talk about the mindset when it comes to like business and your goals, right? So people pull out these giant goals for business and then it's like, where do you even pull that from? They don't hit it. They feel bad, negative thoughts, failures. Like how do you do that cycle then? What is your advice on creating achievable goals then? How does somebody know if the goal is too big? Because it's the aim for the sun or aim for the moon, land on the stars, that type of thing. Right. Do you like that theory? Do you not like that theory? Do you think it's deflating? Like, what is your perspective on that?
I think that's a personal thing. I think some people have to operate that way in order to land among the stars, to hit their goal, to achieve it. I think other people have to be more realistic. I think others have to set a goal that they know they can hit and then set a stretch goal because that's really what they're searching for. But to back it all the way up, I would say we can't hit goals we've never hit before. And I think that's a big piece of, and I'll just use the number one goal that everyone always, because it's statistically the number one goal. Everyone always wants to get healthy every year. Health and wellness is the number one. That's the number one topic everyone puts on their board. It's one that people come to me and that they really want to dial in. And I've had people say, yeah, I want to run a marathon. Great, that's awesome. How many 5Ks and 10Ks have you run? Have you run a half marathon?
When was the last time you ran?
Oh, no. No, I really want to run a marathon because I heard you get to dress up in costumes, and go to Disney. Okay, but maybe before that, let's actually get out and start running because you might find that you hate it. And then you might find that the only reason you're doing this is because you thought that this was your path to getting healthy. And there are a myriad of ways,
yeah,
a ton of other ways to get healthy besides just running. So it's defining, like, what is your why? What is the why? So like, and as crazy as it seems, you can do that with a number as well. Why do you want to hit that goal? Why is making 100K in your business important to you? What does it mean to you? Is it that it's financially freeing you? Is it the freedom? Is it the ability to reinvest in your business? How are you understanding what your goals are? This is my biggest frustration with corporations. You have a really great year, and so they just say, we're going to raise it 10%. But why? Why are we doing that? What in the market has told us that we can raise it 10%? Is it because we really grew it 50% and then we just like way offshot, our mark? And so we just planned poorly, like we didn't really know what we were up against. And then I would say, because yet again, we didn't know our why to begin with. So I get frustrated when it comes to that, because I think I have tried to grow slow, because I have felt that the way for me to grow where it's comfortable to me and where I don't lose the value of what I've put into my business, but then I also can actually speed up when it becomes necessary, was for me to grow at a little bit slower pace than maybe I wanted to. And each year I have met the metric that I wanted for my business because of it. That's how I operate. I work with clients who are like, nope, I got to make this. And we break it down by month. We break it down by week. We break it down by, I can get granular and tactical with them as far as a sales perspective goes, because that's the world that I come from. So how many sales calls do you have to make? How many, leads do you need to bring in every week? We can go there, but it all starts with, but why is this even important to you? What is it about this? What are you trying to achieve on every single one of these calls? What is it that you want them to walk away with that's going to actually lead you to landing it? Because it's not just about dialing it back and saying, okay, we've got to make X amount. And so I get sideways sometimes when people say, it takes X amount of calls for this. Well, if you're truly impactful because you know why you're calling that person in the first place and you've done your homework, I only need to make 10 calls and I can land all 10 of them because I've done the work to understand why I'm going after that person in the first place. I'm looking at them and saying, the reason you need me is because of this. I think I've identified something that might be unique, and you might not like it, or you might think it's a little woo-woo at first, but I promise you, when we peel everything back, when we work with your team, your engagement's going to increase, your retention is going to be where you want it to be. You're going to retain your employees because they're happier. On a small business standpoint, 82% of small business owners use a vision board. And the vision board isn't the focus. So I'm also very clear in that. It's all the work that leads up to creating the vision board. But when it comes to goal setting, it's just getting really clear, because we want to maintain a sense of control, especially as a business owner. And when we start to feel like we're getting out of control, that's when we start making asinine decisions for our business. That's when we start spending money that maybe we don't have, or spending money in a way that's not in the best interest of the company. And then we can't grow the way that we want to grow.
What is your best advice for a business owner that maybe is having trouble getting a team to buy into this process, right? How do you suggest someone handle that?
They should call me.
Yeah.
They should work with me.
Yeah.
They should get really clear on what the vision is for their business. Typically, if you can't get people to buy in, it's because you don't know what your vision
because
is.
You're not clear.
You're not clear. And if you're not clear, then you can't articulate that to someone.
Right.
So, if you don't know what your purpose, for the business is, and it's all that storytelling, right? It goes back to, what is the story that I'm going to tell these people that's going to bring them on board? So maybe it's the origin story. Maybe it's the, this brand came about because of this, this, and this. And that's why I'm empowered to do what I'm doing. And I'm passionate about this. And I want you to be as fired up, because you're going to be an integral part of bringing this business to the masses, or to our community, or whomever it is that you're serving. So I think it's understanding, why you're doing this. Go back to those 3 questions. What do I want? What do I want? And ask that of your team members as well, especially if you're struggling to connect with them. Ask them what they want and tell them to be completely honest, because maybe they don't want to work for you forever, and that's okay. Maybe they want to get the experience so they can go on to the next thing that's good for them. And, when I led a team, I would tell them, this is supposed to be fun. So if it's not fun, let's have a conversation. And you should always choose what's best for you over this company. Because that's what's going to advance
the
you
company and the company, right? Ultimately, right? Happy. If you want happy, you want. I heard this a long time ago at one of the conferences that I went to, and it was if as a business owner, if you help your employees achieve their dreams, they will help you achieve yours. Yes. So so the focus of helping them get what they want out of their life,
absolutely.
Which is why, again, what you do is so critical, because you could facilitate that, right? The average human being is not equipped to lead that. They're just not.
Right.
They're not.
No. And I know that is my superpower. Like,
absolutely.
It took me years to admit it. It took me years to appreciate it and embrace it. And now I walk wholeheartedly into this life this crazy life I've created. I mean, literally, I think my husband was one of those people that was like, I think you're insane. I mean, he was on the bridge with me when everything kind of happened. And he's like, why are you crying? Like, you're always crying. What in the world? Because I am a very, like, I mean, I'm Latina. I cry at, like, Publix commercials. Yeah, like, come on. Same, like, it's just, I get emotional. I mean, I feel very, very deeply. Yes. And I love deep connection. And I love fostering that in any relationship or friendship that I'm in. So it's like, yes, I go all in. And so I'm standing on this bridge, and, you know, we've been together forever. And so he's like, what now? Like, what now? Like, you know, and I'm like, I have to quit. Like, I have to quit. Like, it's finally time. Like, I can't ignore this anymore. And I have a feeling I'm going to be having more of these emotional outbursts if I continue to ignore it. So, you know, I think he's like, all right, well, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, let's figure it out.
Right.
But I love his practicality. I love his logical approach to everything, because he's very much, I'm the dreamer, I'm the creative, you can do it. Like, I'm that person for our kids, and our husband sometimes brings them back down to earth. So, you know,
well, you need that too.
You need that too, absolutely. Right? You need the balance. You need the balance.
You can't create delusion.
Right. And he's taught me, honestly, he's helped me so much in just advancing my own business, of helping people understand, like, I'm a dreamer, but I'm a realist as well.
Right. Which also I think is the gift too. And that's why I was pleasantly surprised to hear you say that even with your children, that you're like, toughen up, hard work. Yeah. Like it's not just, again, I don't have children, so I know I'm speaking way out of context here, but I think the idea of it's a question I was going to ask you, like, how do you balance that? Yeah. Right. How do you balance the support with the realistic, you know, the support of that, like telling people, yes, you can achieve your goals, but hey, guess what? You're going to have to learn some skills to do so. Yeah. Like, I think that people that I think the perception of this goal setting and chasing your dreams is very, like, airy, because people think that it doesn't come tied to skills. You know, like I'm gonna dream to make $10 million next year, and then I'm just gonna sit back and hope it happens.
Yes.
No. There's action and education 100%. And steps and hard work and sacrifice and sweat and tears and blood, all of that, right? Like, it's not like you're not throwing spaghetti at the wall and it's coming true.
Right.
No.
Well, and that's, I mean, I say that all the time with the vision board too. I mean, people say, oh yeah, I made one of those a long time ago. Well, what happened to it? Or is it, did you sit with it every day? I mean, did you really spend time sitting with it every day, looking at those images, reminding yourself? Did you go through your goals every day? And we know that the habits of millionaires and billionaires are that they're actively engaged in their goal. Yet less than 1% of Americans are actively engaged in their goals, and that's the difference. Like, we always want to know the magic difference. It's not the more money. It's not this. It's the discipline. It's the action. It's the owning up, taking ownership and accountability, admitting when you're not living up to that, and that's a hard piece, especially as kids. Because, you know, my son doesn't want to practice piano every day. And so, but he wants to be great at the recital. He wants to win the piano competition. But that's where we have to remind him, you are capable. You're just choosing to take the easy way out. You're choosing not to practice when you know that if you practiced, man, you excel. You improve in a week's time if you practice a half an hour every day. We see it. We notice it. You're moving through pieces faster. So your teacher's giving you pieces, you know, more consistently, more often. And then you're tackling those. She's giving you harder pieces because guess what? Now you're learning how to sight read better. You're learning how to use pedal better, all of these things. But it's making them aware of that. And I think that, listen, and I in no way am giving parenting advice or saying that we do it the right way, because there are so many times we fail and we miss and we drop the ball and all the things. Like, I am just a mom trying to make it happen, just like every other mom. But I think along the way we have identified this is what works for our kids. And I think that as parents, and sometimes the easy way out is to just say, you can do it. You're just so capable. You're just so.
There it is.
You've got it.
That's what it is.
Instead of saying, okay, you want this? What's your plan?
Yeah.
And we don't come to it to say, here's your plan. We don't hand it to them. We say, what is your plan? How are you going to get there? What are the steps? What do you think you're going to have to do in order to make this happen? And then it teaches
those
them.
are critical thinking skills that would just change the trajectory of this country and this world.
Yeah.
If we were all equipped with that.
Totally.
From a young age.
Yeah. Completely. And especially in like the life cycle of an entrepreneur, it definitely would help you get to where you want to go faster.
Correct.
Because if you have that path to saying, okay, I know how to create my action plan. I know what the steps it's going to take. I have a decent idea of the timeline because I modeled this when I was a child. Like I knew that. And so now I'm setting myself up for success because I know I can get so far based off of these, 3 to 4 habits that I'm building. I always say the goal is kind of up here. The goal is really the overarching. The goal kind of is get healthy. It's really everything underneath it that you're going to have to do. Maybe you call them mini goals, micro goals, milestones, guideposts, whatever you want to call them. Like I didn't write the book on goal setting. I just know how to help you get there. And so the way that I look at it is, okay, if the goal is to get healthy, then what does that look like for you? Because it's going to look something different to everyone. If the goal is for you to make $1 million in your business, okay, that's great. It's going to look different to you, Ciara, than it is to me. And how we go about it is going to look completely different. Who we engage in our business, who we hire, who we don't hire.
The methods.
Right.
Yeah, right.
The approach, the industries, because the industries are different.
So different.
So it's knowing all of that. And I think this is the thing that overwhelms people. And listen, after people spend a day with me in a workshop, they're completely overwhelmed. They want to go take like a week-long vacation.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's stuff that we've never heard. Right. It really is stuff that you've never heard of as adults.
Yeah.
It's wild. It really is. It really is. Yep. It is wild that I think that if I wasn't on this journey of entrepreneurship, I don't know that I would have ever paid attention to this. I was comfortable living a life, I think that this is also stuff that people seek, like, especially if they're coming to you already, they're probably already either in a slump or they know they're meant for more. They know they can do more and they just need that guide of how to get there. Let's talk about goals then. So everyone starts January 1st, New Year's resolution, all that stuff. Like, what is your best advice on timing, on how many goals do we have in a year? What do you suggest, personal, business-wise, both,
What you definitely do not have to start in January.
Okay.
I mean, I actually sometimes recommend against it.
Yeah, I feel like it's too cliche. And I think that then you start and then everyone else around you is falling off. So then you fall off. So it's almost better to go against the grain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just need to, especially, as women in business, as moms, all the things. Sometimes like my January and my birthday's right after the holidays. So for me, like, we go skiing every year. So, we went to Dare Valley and it's like we celebrated my birthday in a big way every year. And it's a great way for me to kind of kick off the year. So the last thing I'm thinking about is kind of sitting down. Now, I say that, and we did our board with the kids beginning of every year, like, like we do. And that's more so because I've already been thinking about it and I live in this space.
Correct.
But what I advise to people is if the holidays have like overwhelmed you and you're just trying to like get your bearing, do not enter into a goal setting type of workshop or environment where you're sitting down and making hard goals for yourself January 1st. Nurse the hangover, like, take the time, get settled into your year, and then start to really reflect and think about what it is you want to accomplish. As far as the number of goals, when clients work with me individually or in a group, we're typically working anywhere between 1 to 3 goals at a time. And the reason is because, and you can have more than that. And as far as how many goals you accomplish in a year, I think that depends on what the goals are.
Sure, how big they are.
And how big they are and how adept you are at accomplishing them. Because some of them, I mean, I have some hyper-focused, females that I'm working with that are absolutely kicking butt and taking names and like already into 2025, like crushing their goals. So, of course, they're going to say, well, let's pull the next one forward.
Correct. Right. You have some on the bench.
Exactly. You have some on the bench, right? And so, honestly, the 3s is like design, media, it's biblical as well. It's all these things, but we metabolize 3s a lot better. And so for us, it's easier for us to compartmentalize when we're working in threes. It's why I say, honestly, on a daily to-do list, we should try to tackle no more than 3 things. It's why I do my daily Post-it note, because I have 1 Post-it note a day that I keep myself accountable for. And when you truly break it down, you know, and I was with a group recently and they asked me like, well, what does that look like? You know, when you're setting a goal, what does that daily Post-it note look like? And listen, theoretically, it can be a physical Post-it note, or it can be something that you just say, this is what I'm going to be held accountable for. You can be digital. I don't tell people like you have to follow this step by step. It's what works best for you and how you're actually going to follow through on it. But for me, I'm a tangible I have to like rip the Post-it note off the wall. So, you know, for getting healthy, maybe it's that one day I'm going to be accountable for taking 10,000 steps plus that day, because like that's what I can control. And in the chaos of my life, when I've gotten up and before, you know, 7:30 in the morning, I've already gotten 3 kids off to school, made lunches, done all the things. And now I'm settled into, you know, walking the dog with my husband and then going about my day. So I've already lived a life, it feels like, before 8 a.m. You know? So the least I can do is have some control. So if 10,000 steps is the goal for that day, that's what I'm focusing on. I rip that Post-it note off, crumble it up. It's the best damn feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Yes, throw it in the trash. The next day, now I've got 4 Post-it notes left. I got 4 more things. I've just 4 more things that I've got. Here's the thing. I accomplish way more than that. Right. I know it. You know it. Everyone else knows it who has been a part of this program, has been a part of this process. They know it. But there's just something so mentally motivating and satisfying, as my kids say, satisfying, you know, about ripping that Post-it note off the wall or crossing it off.
It's a sense of accomplishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the week, I spend 5 minutes. I call it my Friday 5. I spend 5 minutes reflecting on a minute for each of those things. How did that make me feel? I mean, I'm so proud of myself. I hit 13,000 steps, in fact, you know, instead of 10. And that's a new record for me, or, you know, whatever it might be. But you spend 5 minutes reflecting on those 5 things, and you've celebrated that small win by honoring that commitment to yourself. And now take a little breather for the weekend, and I'm ready to go on Monday because I've created action-driven motivation. And so I think when it comes to goals, that's really what we're trying to do. So you're taking that larger goal and you're creating, like I said, whether it's micro goals, mini goals, whatever it may be, and you're creating really positive habits that you can track consistently that changes your overall behavior. And that's really what it's about. If we're really trying to become a better version of ourselves or become a better human, that's how we do it.
Wow. That's so good. It's so good too, because it's like that red car theory.
Yes.
Right?
I talk about this.
Thing.
Yes.
It's the same thing. I saw a clip on social a couple of weeks ago of Tony Robbins talking about it. He was being interviewed by Theo Vaughn, which is funny in itself. But, and he was like, look around the room, right? And look for all the red.
Yep.
Right. And then it's like, how much red did you see? Oh, I saw this. Okay. But did you see any brown? No. Yeah. Okay. Well, look around the room. There's actually more brown than red.
Yep.
But you weren't looking for it.
Looking for it. Exactly.
So it's the same power.
Yes.
It's the same power of like ripping. I'm going to start the Post-it. I have heard about it a lot and I've never done it. I'm just going to start it.
It's so fun.
I'm going to do it.
It really is.
Honestly, I think it's also good to gamify these things too for yourself, right? Because then it's like a competition with yourself. But that concept of, you know, what you focus on grows. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Yes. I just don't know why we as adults don't marry the concepts with our goals for ourselves.
So I love that you said gamify too, because you were right. And I think in our own way, we have to make it fun. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes our goals, they get pushed to the back of everything because we look at them as like these daunting tasks. Mm-hmm. But you said something that reminded me of stats that I always share with my groups. And I have it out here on social media and everything like that. So, I mean, I'll share it with you guys. You can look it up. I mean, that's where I got it. You know, it's like I read it in a study, so I'm sure you can find it. But, 3.2 billion images are uploaded online every day. Over 720,000 hours of video content is uploaded every single day.
Wow.
So to Tony Robbins' point, the red car theory, I talk about that a lot as well. Primarily because of my background in automotive. And so I bring that up just because it's a great way to marry the two. And
I heard the presentation. Yes. It's fantastic. You're sitting in the driver's seat. I know it. It's powerful. I saw a room of women do it. It is powerful.
Thank you.
It is powerful.
And so when you think about that and you think about how many images, the average social media user, if they have one account, sees anywhere from 10 to 100 images a day. So back to Tony Robbins, if we're not looking for it and we're allowing all of these images to take up headspace in our brain and keep us occupied, how are we finding our goals out in the universe? How are we seeing where we want to go when we're so bogged down and blocked by all of these images? I mean, I always think about it literally like having to push trees out of the way, or having to push, like brush out of the way to get to where you're headed, and all you keep seeing is the brush, like, because you can't get anywhere. You just literally putting hours, one step in front of the other, but you're making no gain whatsoever.
And then the power that it has in our minds, right? Like you said, you see it, you can't forget it. So it's like you're seeing all. My God, to think 100 to 200 a day. If hearing that, I'm just like, there's no way I don't spend that much time on social. Yes, I do.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
You could scroll for 20 minutes and scroll through that.
Easily.
And it's just clogging your brain to the point that you don't have time, that then your goals feel daunting.
Right.
Because your brain is clogged with all the crap that you just consumed.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about this, and I think even Suzette on that call brought it up, but we have anywhere from 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So now you're taking the thoughts that you have about these images that you're seeing, the negativity starts to creep in, the imposter syndrome, the self-limiting beliefs, because we allow that because we're seeing these images that are identifying with that piece of us that makes us feel less than. And now we're expected to go, well, it's time to tackle our goals.
Right.
Let's go do it.
Right.
I can seize the day now that I've seen everyone's, child and their grandmother and celebrated 15 birthdays, and also read these quotes and, looked at 25 influencers that have a life that I would love to have. And now I'm overwhelmed.
And disappointed. And
Yep.
that's where the space for like not being grateful for what you have festers. Like
Yep.
it really is. Imagine if people were to consume a half hour less of content and dedicated that half hour to their goals every day.
Yep. Yeah. And we work on that. I mean, and I tell them all the time, I'm guilty of it too. Like,
Of course.
I'm human. I do the same thing. There are moments I'm just better at catching myself at it.
Right.
Because I've focused so much on it that now it's like, nope, I don't even answer email. I missed an email from my kid's school the other day. Sorry. Because I was so zen and in my moment where I'm refusing to answer emails until a certain point in the day. But it's been the most freeing. I schedule posts, even though every, content person will tell you not to do it because it affects your numbers. I don't care. I have 3 kids. I have a business. I've got all these things I'm trying to do. I've got my own goals I'm trying to accomplish personally and professionally. So I'm scheduling it so that I don't have to worry about it.
Also, I already know for a fact that you take on your clients' goals, like if they're your own.
Oh,
You know it.
Yes.
Like it's obvious. So
Yes.
it's like you're invested in so many people too. And so that's a responsibility. Really.
It is.
Your business is also a responsibility that I'm
Yes.
sure you don't take lightly. So that
No.
also I'm sure weighs on you too. Like
Yes.
you're carrying, everything that they're telling you and their goals, and you're hoping that they're doing all of that. I'm sure it weighs on you.
It does. I think that's the emotional piece that I didn't account for when I went into this, because I do feel deeply, and I want so badly for all of my clients to feel supported, but not just to feel supported, but to also feel confident and secure that they've got this and that I'm there for them every step of the way, but like they've got this. And so I do a lot of reflection on that, and I hold a lot of space. And so sometimes I forget to hold space for myself.
Right.
And so when my weeks start to wind down and I realize I've only done 3 of my 5 Post-it notes, because I'm, like I said, I'm human too. And so there are days where I just don't even have the energy. I'll look at the board and be like,
Not today.
not today. Yeah.
Not today. No.
Satan's winning this
I
one.
was gonna say that makes me feel really good too, because if it happens to you, then okay, then it can happen to me.
No. Listen, I think that's the one thing I've learned just through like leaving corporate and all of this is like I gave up the facade. Like I gave up this idea that I had all of. Am I allowed to say SHIT?
Oh yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want you to lose your rating.
They'll edit it out.
Yeah. But I gave up this idea, like that I have all my shit together, that I have all the answers. I think I operated that way so much, and not to go down like another, conversational rabbit hole, but I think that was when I look back and reflect on my own journey. I don't know that people in corporate will recognize who I am. And that's a good thing. I wanted that. I actually returned to who I was.
Oh.
And that's hard to admit. But it's also been the most freeing to admit that I wasn't the person I knew I could be when I was in corporate, and I was definitely living, not necessarily a lie, but I was living a life that wasn't authentic. It was living a life that was manufactured for everyone else around me who wanted me to be what they wanted me to be for them. And so if it fit them and their needs, then I'm your girl. And so I think that moment in 2019 was like the moment where it was like, it's enough. It's too much. You can't do it anymore. And I'm going to make you. And so I'm going to grab you and just force you to take action moving forward. And I stayed until 2021, but I had my game plan.
Right.
So that the day that I left, there was no looking back. I severed all ties. I moved forward, and I'm like, this is the life I'm leading. This is the life I'm living. And yeah, here we are.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history.
And now you're helping people be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah. Because I don't want them to live the way that I lived. Like, I think that was really when I go back to the root of everything, it's that I don't want people to feel the way that I felt. And I think there's a lot of us that feel that way. I think there's so many of us that are living a life that someone else has told us we should live, or we have chased something that at the time we thought was going to make us happy. And when we realized it didn't, we either thought we were too far in, we couldn't can't pivot, couldn't redirect. I see it all the time, especially in industries where people are constantly either getting laid off and then they find another job, and they feel like the pharmaceutical industry that, and they just feel grateful, like that they got to continue on this path. But what are you continuing? What are you continuing?
You don't even like it.
You don't even like it. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, you wished, you had hoped, that you would get severed or that something would happen to force you. And I think sometimes those turning points in life, because I've been laid off and it did feel monumental at the time, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It allowed me to redirect, like leaving all the things. I mean, there's just,
I think that to bring it full circle, it's that point of what do you want?
Yeah.
The people that continue on the hamster wheel, it's because they've never sat down to ask themselves, what do you want? Because that might be one of the most frightening questions as an adult to answer. Because then it's like, when you're clear on what you want, if you don't make it happen, that's on you.
Yeah.
If you never define
100%.
it, then it's just not real.
Right. Yeah.
So then there's no accountability, and you can't, there's no regret because you're not sure.
Right. And then you can say, well,
it's a way out.
I maybe could have done that. I maybe could have done that.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah. But you didn't.
Right.
You didn't.
Right. And when you have it defined, there's no turning back.
Right.
Then you're just, every single day you wake up and you're not working towards that, then you are staring in a mirror. Yeah. That's what happens when you write these things down. It is a reflection back on your ability to execute or take action or have commitment to yourself. Yeah. That's why it's painful.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why it's not
a reflection. Right.
It's a reflection. Right. Yes. And we want, going back to the beginning, we talked about our body, our mind, brain wants us to make us comfortable.
Right.
It's here to help us,
the hamster wheel is comfortable.
Yep.
In the scenario that you're talking about.
Because it's easy. We know it, it's like dance with the devil, not with the one you don't. And
it's also just everyone around you is doing it too. Right. It's just the idea of like, that's what we grow up and that's what we do. It's the narrative. Yeah. Even from when you're a child, what are you going to be when you grow up? It's just that narrative of that. This is all just so fast. I literally haven't even scratched the surface of things I wanted to ask you. Like, it's just, you're so easy to talk to. I could talk to you forever. It's just, you're so contagious and so refreshing. You're refreshing. Well, and
I'm a little obsessed with what I get to do. So.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's evident. It's evident. And I mean, obviously, honestly, you're literally changing people's lives in what you do. So, but I wanted to talk to you about like being on TV. What did that feel like? How does that feel? Well, we'll end it there because I've been on TV. Like you're doing big stuff in your business. Yeah. Like, I know we talked about this stuff, but let's talk about very briefly, because I want to be respectful of your time. But like that part of like, how does it feel when you accomplish your goals?
Yeah, I love TV.
Really?
Yes. There are moments when I'm in like a TV station or on a TV set, and I'm like, I think I could have done this full time.
100%. I mean, I don't even have to see you there. You have the voice for it, first of all. You can definitely be like a news anchor. 100%.
Thank you.
100%. Yeah.
So I do enjoy it. And so I think for me, it just goes back to anytime I get to share what it is I do and educate people, because no one, I think the thing about TV that I enjoy is because I see the wheels turning. I've had interviews that they'll say, I'm going to ask you these 3 questions. They'll ask me the first question, and my response, they immediately, it's like, throw the notes out. Let's just talk. Because I think I make it more comfortable for them. And so I disarm them as far as like when it comes to goals. And now their head spinning to like their inner child. And I've had talk show people or like news people, if I've been on the news or whatever, like a woman grabbed me in Cincinnati and was like, she said, when I was a kid, she was like, I really wanted to like own a candy store. And she was like, is that the craziest thing? And she was like, but for some reason, she's like, why did I think of that when you started talking about your goals and when you were a child? She's like, I think it's because you mentioned when you were in 3rd grade. And she's like, yeah. And she goes, and that just came to me like, oh my gosh, I wanted to own that when I was that, and I was like, well, think about that. I was like, maybe that's something you can do. You can still make it happen. I'm like, who doesn't love candy? Hello? Like, girl, make it happen.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things that it brings out, because we can all go back to that inner child and like those goals that we might have had. And I think that's the piece that sometimes I uncover. And that's why I love going on TV, because I love where it's going to lead me. And I love just answering like random questions too.
I love that. I love that. To end, what is the best piece of business or goal setting advice that you could give someone that's just getting started?
Start small. Yeah, like really, really, really start small. Start with answering those 3 questions. Because if you can answer those 3 questions.
That's big. It's actually big.
It's actually big. Yeah. What do I want? Who do I want to become? And what do I want to create? And then start taking that and seeing how you can answer those 3 questions in every aspect of your life. What do I want for lunch? Who do I want to become?
The hardest question on earth.
Right, exactly. That really is. Yeah. Who do I want to become after I eat this salad? Yeah.
Another salad. That's what. Right. Doesn't matter what you want. Right. It's going to be a salad.
Right. But what do I want to create? Yeah. Like, do I want to put croutons on it? Do I want to put almonds? Do I want to put this? Like everything to the basic to, what do I really want? I want to build a meaningful business that changes people's lives. I want to change the world one vision board at a time. But I want to teach people that it's not just the vision board. Like, it's their own action that's going to help them get there. Who do I want to become? I want to become someone who is just a woman of her word. Like if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And if I set my mind to a goal, like I'm going to achieve it. So like I'm honoring that commitment to myself. I want to become like the best spouse I can be, the most wonderful mom. Like those are like, when I think about who I want to become, I want to become that best version of myself, and what I'm creating is hopefully a world of goal getters that will go out there and just absolutely light their world on fire, not because they think that they have to earn anything, because they deserve it, because they're worthy of it just by being themselves. Like they deserve a life that is filled with everything that they want it to be filled with: meaning, purpose, value, success, joy, happiness, all the things, money, if that's what they want. I mean, whatever they want to create, they have the opportunity to do it. They just have to sit down and answer those 3 questions.
It starts with the questions, guys.
Questions.
Where can everybody find you?
So you can find me on social media. You can find me mostly on Instagram. I have been TikToking. That's nice. You inspired me with the TikToks. I love your TikTok.
I'm trying.
So yes, as my son calls it, the TikTok. But
that's amazing.
Both of them, I am at Maria Maldonado Smith. So just one big long stinking handle. Yep. And then my website is mmsconsultingfirm.com. But I'm also on LinkedIn under Maria Smith, and on Facebook as well. Awesome. So you can find me on pretty much
and we'll
everything.
Add it in the show notes. Thank you so much
for
your time and for
you're the best.
Really, really, you're the best. And I appreciate you coming and sharing just a piece of what you do. And we're definitely going to have you back, because we
got to do a vision board now.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait.
Now we gotta do it.
Yes. Honestly, yeah. I think that for me it would work mid-year too. Like I think I'm not in on the January stuff.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
Yeah.
So
it's tough.
It is.
Trust me, it's tough. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. And I know that this episode is gonna change someone's life. So thank you.